Hi, my name is Andy Gallimore, and I'm going to go over the CPQ functions within SalesOne platform. So starting off in our opportunity, if you've followed along in any of the other videos, we started in our campaigns, we moved into leads, and our leads then created those opportunities. And now where we are with the opportunity creation, we do have the opportunity shell here that we would then start to generate the quotes and getting into the financials with our customer. So I'll showcase here the opportunity screen. And now we're at this stage where we can go ahead and create quote. So in starting our CPQ, standing for configure price quote, we're going to go ahead and configure the quote here. So some of the details around that quote with regards to, we'll just name this quote 1. And then we'll put an expiration date on here of October 31st. Now we can obviously preset these expiration dates based on internal approvals and things of that nature based on whatever your workflow requirements are. But this will allow us to at least get the general data here for the configuration of the quote. Now the quote shell, go ahead and click save here just to make sure I got all the data. You'll notice down here below, after you look at some of the general data, it's starting off in draft and it's got $0 here because we haven't actually configured the from the price list what's going to be included in the quote. We do have the notes capability here for the internal notes. We've also got our customer comments. One of the things that we've talked about in other videos is we do have the ability to do a customer portal. That customer portal would allow for customers to interact with your quotes, potentially even a request catalog where they could request quotes, any of their legal documentations, the MSA, the NDA that we had discussed in the agreement management video, as well as in the lead management. So they would be able to interact with that, and you can see their comments in here as they would start to produce and interact with those capabilities. We do have our approvals for these are internal approvals and then our customer approvals so that we can track all the data around when the approvals were done. And then obviously any history of when things were created, expired, so on and so forth. So you'll notice here that we set our expiration date. Now we've got a full history of when those things transpired. Down below, you'll notice that we have our line items. These are the line items that'll be generated from the quote when we get into our quote builder. Any activities at the quote level, again, we can, similar to leads and opportunities and campaigns, we can pre-fill these activities. If you have general steps that need to take place out of the box, we just allow you to create those activities to your liking. Sales tasks, same way, approvals and agreements. So let's get into our quote builder. So as we come in here, we're going to just go into our quote builder. And on our quote builder, you'll notice out of the box that it comes into the general UI. And on the right-hand side, we've got the products and the actions. Now, these are associated to the price list that was defaulted in our opportunity management. So this was the standard price list. And you can do bundled products. You can do individual products, and then the bundled products actually have individual line items already baked into the process as well. So on the left-hand side, kind of in the middle here, we have everything that will be in the line items once we add those in. You can do quote info and see some basic information at the top. And from a navigation perspective, you also have these collapse windows here to where this is the summary view. But if I want to expand that out and see my MRR, my NRR, my costs, and those type of things, I can expand that out and see more detail. Now, this will all pre-fill from the product creations that we do in the product price list. So for walking through the quoting here, I'm going to go ahead and pick our bundle service, which is a pick 3. Now, this may not fit into your products and suites of what you're selling, but we tried to pick a general capability that most people have, right? Most people have a cable TV, they have phone service. So, think of yourself as a consumer in this perspective. So looking at our pick 3 actually covers our cable TV, our internet service, and our phone. These are all individual line items down below here. That you can see, but what we've done is we bundled them into one service. So as we go through the service, the pick three capability, it bundles all that together. And then you'll notice here that we have little alerts that have popped up as well. These alerts are going to be the actions that are required to finalize this quote. So as I go through, I can kind of select into the alerts and think of this as the TurboTax for quote management. It's going to walk you through the items that need to be done with regards to your activities. So as I click on here, it's going to tell me, okay, for phone service, I need now to select, is it local, is it national, international? So I'm going to go ahead and as I do, always pick the largest and most expensive. So we're going to go into internet service. And as you can see, once I select those, they go through the process and then they add the cost line items within the price here. Internet service, we're going to go with the 100, and it's going to populate the cost for the 100. And then finally, I'm going to go into my cable and I'm going to pick premium. And you'll notice over here, I've got duration. So you can change if you want this to be, this is an annual contract. If you want this to be 36 months, whatever that may be, you can simply just click in, make the change and accept the change. I'm going to go ahead. Also your quantity, you can change the quantity in the same manner and make changes to the pricing. So if I wanted to go in and give them a quick discount, I can go in and put that to 75, and now we'll make that the adjusted list price. So finally, we do have over here in our actions, beyond just a selection criteria, we have the ability to be a little bit more complex in the guidance. So for instance, with our installation services, we want to know how many outlets are required so we can start prompting. Now, the value of this comes into play of, if you don't have individuals that may know exactly what they need to select, right? We can guide them through the process. But also think about that customer portal in the situation where maybe you want to limit the amount of people that you have, or maybe you just don't have a lot of salespeople. You could generate this process to your end clients. They could select and walk them through building their own quote using this question and answer process. So they can essentially build everything, and then it could go more to a back office approval process. But I'm going to go ahead and go in and I'm going to select my my answers. So how many outlets? We're going to say 3. And my available locations, we'll jump in and we'll say location number 2. And these could be drop downs. These could be actual addresses. If you're selling to a corporation, it might be different site facilities, those type of things. And then what's the delivery address or the installation address? We're gonna 123 Main Street. And we can tie these into validation rules of actual street addresses to make sure that people don't put in garbage data, so on and so forth. So now, as I go through that, you'll notice all of my alerts are gone. I can go back to my individual line items. I can close out these if I want to, just to have a clean view. But now I have all my alerts are gone. That means I'm ready to go ahead and do my quote generation. So I'll go back out here. My data is pre-filled into my quote configuration. So all of the things that I added in there, now I have my line items. This was the pick 3 service. Those are all kind of bundled in, and I can click generate quote. Now, as I generate the quote, a couple things happen. I'm actually going to create a quote view that allows me the PDF view that I can download and send to a client. If you're not using the customer portal, if you're using email to interact with your external client, you can take this PDF version, send that over to them. Or you can go in and see the quote as it's generated in the quote view. This is the view that they would see with regard to if they were using the portal, they'd be able to see it in this context here. Now, when you look here, you can make this look like whatever you want. We're using HTML editors so that you can make this look like a PowerPoint presentation. You can make this look like a Word document. The sky's the limit to the templates that we can provide for with regards to what your quotes look like. And then you'll notice down here, this one is pretty simplistic. There's no real legal language because it's our initial quote that's out there. If you go straight to a quote that's signable, we can add some legal language and we can add the line items, and you'll see that as part of our order process as a next step in this CPQ process. But they've got all the details that came over from the quote. Now, up at the top, you'll notice that I do still have my quote builder. I still have my generate quote because I might make some changes. I have a request approval here as well. That's going to go to my internal approval out of the box. I do have the ability to change that. You can, if you don't need approvals or there might be thresholds for approvals, for instance, maybe if there were no discounts provided, maybe it doesn't have to go through approval at all internally, and it's just auto approved and sent to the client for approval. But out of the box, it does align this way. Now you'll notice down at the bottom, I don't have any approvals yet, but I do have one agreement, and that is the shell of the quote. So we've got all of that. It's kind of ready. It's in draft stage because we haven't sent it out for approval yet. So to walk this through the process, I'm going to go ahead and request approval. Now, upon requesting approval, you can notice here that I have the ability to reset it to draft. Maybe I pulled the trigger too quickly and there's some things that I need to add. So I'm going to reset that to draft, pull that approval back. I do have that ability, but you'll also notice down here that I have the approval that is sitting in as requested by the systems administrator. So whoever that approver list would be. So to move this along, I'm going to go ahead and go in and as system administrator, I'm going to approve. Now I go back, I have my set time. I've got my approval in here. That's all staged. Everything is done. My quote was approved. And because of that, I can still reset it to draft because maybe I did something wrong and maybe it was approved and I still need to change something. But I do now have the button for customer approved. Now, if you're using the portal, in this case, that can actually, once that internal approval is done, it will actually open up that view for your customer to actually start reviewing and approving in the portal. Or if you've sent this document now out in your email, you have the ability to wait. Once you get that back, the salesperson that has the appropriate authority can say the customer approved it once they have the executed documents or authority from the customer. So couple different ways that you can tackle that, but I'm going to go ahead and click customer approved. We go through the customer approval, you'll notice the dates pre-fill, and like all good sales deals, once it's approved, it's the same date. So just kidding. Sales doesn't move that fast. But we do have now, we've got our views here that will allow us to see, that sales process. Now that quote is complete. And that will take me back out to my opportunity. And that is the quoting function within SalesWon.